Hey everybody, I'm going to talk about how to join two of my pinch pots together to make one hollow item. All right, you can use this to make like a basketball, a pumpkin, just a general egg shape to create other things with. You can add things onto this like legs and wings and make it into an animal. You can do lots of things. So I've already got my two pinch pots. They're fairly firm. I let them dry up. You can do this while they're pretty damp. This one is not as dry as this one. I used a metal rib that has teeth on it to score the edges like this. All right. And I've done that to both of them. All right. And I am going to use slip, which is liquid clay, to combine those together, and I'm going to use a coil to reinforce that. I'm going to go grab some clay for the coil right now. Okay, I've grabbed some clay for the coil. I'm going to go ahead and roll my coil out because I want it ready for once I join them together, because I won't want to sit it down until I add that coil on. All right, I'm going to keep my board really clean so that I don't add anything that is going to mess up how smooth my little pinch pot bowls are. I already have stuff on it. So my coil just needs to be big enough to go all the way around those. So I'm gonna start it in my hand. And I might wanna even move these a little further away. And I'm gonna roll, I wanna use my whole hand when I roll my coil out. So you hear how it's like going da-da-da-da-da. We don't want that. So we need to use our whole hand and even pressure the whole time. My coil is not going to need to be that big. So then I usually split it in half. That should be big enough to go all the way around. All right, so I might need these for something, so I'm just going to stick them here. I have my two pieces. I'm going to bring up my slip. If I wanted to, I could dip this way. I'm going to dip on my lid here. So you can do it this way, where you get your slip on there. I want enough slip that's going to fill all of my little cracks and make sure that any air bubbles are not going to happen. I can also use a tool like this to butter it, kind of like you would butter bread with my slip. So sometimes people prefer different ones. You can get it in a squeeze bottle, which can also be great. All three different methods have their own ups and downs. You should try different ones to determine what you like best. All right, so I've got my thing on. I think I need a little bit more right in there. Some people like their slip thicker. I don't mind mine kind of thin because I feel like it gets into the small little cracks. And now I'm going to take my two halves and I'm going to attach them together. If they weren't super even, you'd want to have already figured out what fits the best and made a mark so that you know what to match up, okay? So I'm going to put them together. Before I start pressing hard, I'm going to make sure that it's even all the way around. Everything's round and even, and I'm going to squeeze and move things where I need to while they're sort of slippery, right? That's why we call it slip. And now I'm going to press together, and I'm applying quite a bit of pressure, but nothing is moving because I have a nice seal there, right? And I have slip that's filling any of the cracks, and there's no holes. If you have a hole, you're going to find that it compresses together really fast and you start to have a problem. So while you're here, make sure that everything is like you like and squeeze anywhere that needs to come out on the outside of those areas so that the inside comes up. All right. If you wanted to, you could now like pull the slip off with your finger. I like to I'm going to go ahead and score it because I'm going to add my coil right away. And I'm going to use the end here to get it scored. And the reason I like the coil is it reinforces that seam, it fills in any gaps, it makes sure that everything really stays together. So I'm going to actually add a little bit of slip all the way around, like this. Some people might score their coil. If it's damp enough, I don't think that you need to. Then that's another reason why I'm adding extra slip here. That way we don't have to worry about it. So again, it's like I'm buttering. Yeah, sometimes slip gets other places. We can fix that. So I'm going to start with my coil right in that little groove. And I'm just going to lightly press with my thumb as I go all the way around. And then when I get to the end, I'm just going to break it off. All right, and now I'm going to remove that extra slip, and I'm going to put it back into my slip jar, right? Because we don't need to waste any clay. Anything that isn't fired can always be reused, no matter how dry or how wet it is, right? Because we can control how we dry it. All right, so I also have this little rag here. When I have something like this, I like to coil this up. I would usually have already done this, but I like to do things the hard way sometimes. So I'm going to roll it, and then I'm going to circle it around to make like a little nest. And I just tuck an end underneath, and I tuck the other end over. And now it has a little nest to sit in so that it isn't sitting on a flat spot. And now I can use my wooden tool that I have here. Sometimes I even just get all the extra off on that thing. I'm going to use this end to go back over this spot right here, and I'm going to really just press it in like this, going all the way around. It doesn't have to be super neat, but you want to keep your pressure even, all right? Now I probably could have made that coil a lot less thick, but it was starting to get dry, so I didn't want to roll it out more with my hands. I usually let this set for a little while, and then I will move that around a little bit more. It's pretty dry, so I'm actually going to come in here, and I'm going to do this and get some of that extra off. You could also use this edge like this, which gives you a faster, cleaner look. Just try not to take the whole thing off, right? Like we need to leave something there for reinforcement, and you should continue to clean your tool as you go so you're not putting clay back where you don't want it. All right, so you can go back over like that. I like to scoop up all my little parts. Sometimes I put them back in my slip. Sometimes I just make them into a ball so that they don't dry out. You can also use one of these kind of wooden tools or one of these kind of wooden tools, and you can go back, and if it's not very wet, you can paddle that down so it's flat. I am not hitting it very hard. It just sounds probably like I'm hitting it harder than I really am. It's sort of just like a little pat. So that you can get that a little flatter. I have a little crack forming here, so I am going to make sure that I get that stitched together, because we do not want a little hole, because then the air will escape. And the whole reason for making this shape is gone. So the beauty of this shape is that I can use lots of different tools and form it different ways so that I can get the shape that I want without worrying about it collapsing, because there's air entrapped inside, right? And I can leave it that way for a period of time, but before I fire it, I either need to open it up in some way or poke a hole in it so that the air does not explode, okay? I can use my metal rib like this, the steel rib, and I can use that to also further smooth. I always recommend going more than one direction. Like I would probably do this direction around where I just added my coil to get any excess off, right? And while you're working on your piece like this, it's important to control the humidity of your piece while you're not working on it and while you're working on it. If you work on it for a long time, you may need to spray it and let it absorb. If you're going to put it away for the afternoon or evening or for a period of time, you definitely want to put these in a sealed bag that's tightly wrapped. If it is too dry, you want to spray into the bag before you seal it up. If it is too wet, you want to put some paper, like you could make this ring out of paper so it absorbs some of the moisture, because you need it to all be evenly dry or moist, right? Like this right now, this area is dry and this area is moist. So I'm going to spray my ends and then wrap it in plastic and then set it in its own little thing here so that it becomes evenly moist or damp, right? So it becomes the same amount of moisture throughout. That way, when I work with it, everything complies the same way. And then I can smooth it into the shape that I want. I can also change the shape. Like if I didn't want this to be an egg shape, I could press into the center. I can run a tool to put dents in it. I can do lots of different things. For different things you want to do, it may need to be more wet and it may need to be more dry. If you're trying to press into it to make it bumped or change the shape, you're going to want it more wet. If you're trying to carve details into it or later to punch holes through it, you want it a lot more dry so it holds its shape. And this is what I call the 2-pinch pot egg shape. It's one of my favorite things to do and a favorite thing to teach students how to do, because it gives you lots of options once you do it. Like I could turn this into an animal. I could turn it into a container for something. I can make it go this way. I can add feet. I could add a lip and handles and then have a lid, or use it to cut off later so it has a specific shape but still is able to hold things. There's lots and lots of different things you can use these kinds of shape for. Your imagination is really the only thing that could hold you back. I hope you guys enjoyed that and this was helpful for you. And don't forget to make your little nest for your little egg, right? You can store it this way. You could store it this way. The idea is that you're not allowing pressure to sit on part of your thing so it becomes flat.